All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I am now joined, Locked on Vols, Volquest, Eric Cain, also Rivalry Thursday, where I first met him in person. And look, Eric, I don't know if you remember our first meeting, but I saw you from over, because I do my own thing. I love high school football, like growing up in Georgia and seeing a lot of big time high school football and going on Friday nights. Like that's one of my favorite things to do, and probably something I would just do until they tell me I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And then I disappeared because I broke my foot and I could not stand for 3 hours, and just got that off and working with PT. So 8 weeks of that later, chopped off a chunk of my high school football watching. But you're all over the place. Do you? It's fun because I see you over there and you're doing the Rivalry Thursday stuff, and I couldn't do it. Like you're running over and then you're doing a quick TV spot and the lights are on you, and then you're got to be like, all right, let me grab this guy and I'm ready to go. And I'm like, man, that is not me whatsoever. I couldn't do any of that. How do you do it?
Well, it's fun, man. I was fortunate. I guess this past season was my 5th season working with Rivalry Thursday, and that was kind of my first taste of TV, and it was just a whole lot of fun, and you get better, at it in terms of, being on a podcast and being on a radio show is so much different than doing a TV spot. TV spots, you got to be in, out, succinct, and that's something that took me a little while, but it's fun, man. And then at the radio station in 99.1, we actually did a simulcast television show there for a couple of years, and I got a little bit more TV work doing that as well. So it's been fun. I like to be kind of a jack of all trades and I guess master of none, but I like to be kind of well-versed, and it keeps me busy for sure.
Yeah, sports renaissance man over here. I like doing a lot of different things. Like, we're on the same page there, but I've always said, and I told my wife, family about this, where I'm like, the one thing I don't know if I would ever do is TV. I just don't know if I'll ever be like, I'm not a TV person. And when we pivoted video, like, as you know, with radio and podcasting, it's part of the game now. You got to be on camera every single day, and so I guess maybe now it's not as daunting of a future, but getting used to me being on camera was way more difficult than me getting used to just like hearing my voice and having to like get comfortable with the sound of my own voice. I don't know if it was the same for you.
Well, I put off going on YouTube for the longest time, and everybody's like, "Dude, you're stupid. Like,
same.
What do you like? Go. There's money there. Go, go, go." And I'm like, I'm so busy. I've got this thing going, great with audio right now. I mean, things are good. Like, why add 30 more minutes of work? And I mean, it's the best decision I've ever made. It's been fun. There's, as you know, there is a different type of demographic on YouTube, which is awesome. And I've met more people, more listeners, and the interaction's great. So I was done. I guess it was last football season. I was like, nah, I'll do it in January, February, whatever. Man, I wish I would have done it, in September of last year, but been on it since I've been doing the podcast for Locked on Vols since February of 2021, and I've been on YouTube since this past February, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, and Tennessee fans are all over YouTube, I found. Like, all my Tennessee stuff, like, just pops, and you're doing great. I know you got, like, 5,000, something like that, subs on your Locked on Vols channel, and it's like, Tennessee fans, they really, really want to watch and will listen to as much Tennessee football content as humanly possible. So it's good to see, and I enjoy it. But man, it's different. Like, I get a little bit excited when I have Tennessee content to talk about, because I'm like, man, I'm gonna get a lot of stuff for this. And people really, you gotta be careful what you say about Tennessee football here in East Tennessee. Once you're in that media group, it's a little bit different. Who would you say, Eric, among now that you know the Volquest guys pretty well now, who would you say is the most surprising based on what you thought they were before you started working with them, and then you got to know them now? Who do you think it's the most, like, and listeners and Volquest forum users would be most surprised to learn is like completely different than the personality or the mantra they give off?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing a little work for Volquest. Gosh, I mean, I've been doing something for Volquest since the season of 2019. And, it started out just doing a couple of recruiting stories a week and just kind of doing that. And then I bumped up and had more responsibilities, I guess, before the 2021 season. And then I'm pretty much full-time now. So I've known these guys for a long time. They're great. I mean, Brent Hubbs, even before I joined Volquest, thought he was the nicest guy in the world. That hasn't changed. He's the best boss I've ever had. He's fantastic. Austin Price is, he's a great guy. I mean, I guess what I thought of Austin on the outside is kind of who he is on the inside. He's super knowledgeable, so good at his craft. He's a really good dude. Rob Lewis, I don't know. Like, I feel like Rob maybe puts off some, like, get away from me vibes. But Rob is so funny. He's such a good guy. They're all really good guys, and I mean, it's nice to work in an environment where you're challenging each other to get better, and you got a camaraderie to where you're all like brothers, and that's kind of what we have over at Volquest. And now having Grant Ramey on as well, just getting to know him a little bit. He's been with us for about a month now, and man, he's a grinder, dude. He just gets to work, and like I'll be sitting there, I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" Like we're at a road trip, and you just hear, it's like, "What are you writing a story in the car? Like, what are you doing?"
Wow.
But Grant's been really good as well.
Is there part of you, because like for me, and then we'll get into actual Tennessee football, I've always been curious because I'm about to graduate, got my UT class ring here from my master's, and like I I go to so many of these games as a fan, and my uncles, like I have a lot of family who went to UT too, and it's a big part of our culture, and it's just funny to me because they'll ask me, they're like, why don't you do the media thing? Like, why don't you? And I'm like, I just don't want to, like, part of the appeal for me is I get to scream and lose my mind when Joe Milton airmails a 70-yard deep bomb. Like, that I want to be able to emote. Like, I just don't think I could do that, obviously, in the press box, and there's no cheering in the press box there, where I'm like, I want to lose my absolute mind when Drew Gilbert hits a walk-off for a Tennessee baseball game. Like, I want to be able to always be able to do that, and I don't think I'll ever pivot. Have you ever thought about, like, man, it would be fun to just do one full season as a fan and write about the Vols, like, as a fan in the set, like, just among the people?
Not really, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I grew up in East Tennessee. I mean, I remember going to Tennessee football and basketball games with my dad. Some great memories. So, like, I'm not acting like, oh, I hate the Vols or anything. No, it's never been like that. But I did go and play football at Carson Newman, knowing that is not the same thing. It's not the same solar system. I recognize that. But when I went and played college football, I kind of was like, okay, well, I'm doing this too. So I think some of that kind of just stopped in terms of like the fandom, if you will. Always supported Tennessee, don't get me wrong. And so now I'm in the media covering Tennessee, and it's kind of through a different lens, which I still enjoy it. I'll tell you this, as you know, there's an interest there. I mean, when Tennessee is really good, views are great. Podcast listens are through the charts. People subscribe to the website, which is amazing. So I mean, even in the slower months, like whenever it's not, I mean, the slower months for guys like us is when it's not football season. Tennessee basketball getting bounced out, early in the tournament last year, I wanted to lose my mind. Tennessee baseball not making it to Omaha, I wanted to lose my mind because I'm just sitting there like, number one, I mean, the people that fund my salary, like I want them to be happy. But number two, it's like, I mean, gosh, I had 3 more weeks of content built out right there, and then you just screwed it up. That's when I want to lose my mind. Now, I do not think, as you can see, big Braves fan, I do not think I could cover the Atlanta Braves. That would be difficult. I would have to do it from a different perspective, from like a fan-sided, website or whatever, because the cheering in the press box, I like to think I'm professional, but if I was up there at SunTrust Park and, covering the Atlanta Braves and they made some stupid error, I'd lose my mind probably.
Yeah, like a Matt Olson walk-off, you're just, you can't hold it in. Like, there's just, it's not a thing. I remember I took a walk during the Notre Dame loss. I told my wife, I was like, I don't want to be in a bad mood the rest of the day, so I'll be at campus and I'm just gonna run off my emotions for a while. And I'll never forget, just around campus, it was dead. Like, it was just so sad, and people were walking around so somberly. Like, I wrote about this a few weeks ago, and it's weird that this has come up, and I would never have guessed that I would ever feel this way, but like, Tennessee baseball, and I wonder if it's true for a lot of Tennessee fans now, even with Tennessee football turning the corner and having its 10-win season, and Tennessee basketball looking great, and looking like they could be a Final Four team this year. Good for your content as well. The thing is, you spend so much time with Tennessee baseball now. Like, they are your only like big watch at that point in the spring. And there's so many games, and you get to know these guys, and you watch them get better and better. Is that like the Jorel Ortegas of the world? Like, just even what Drew Gilbert was when he first started playing. You see them. You see Jordan Beck getting bigger and bigger and more confident, and you're like, it's just different. Football season is like gone. Like, I could not believe that when I just walked out of the last home game, that was it. I'm like, there's no way this is it. Florida, like being in the building for Florida, it feels like that was a couple weeks ago, but it's over. Like, you only get 6 home games a year, and now with the neutral sites, you only get 5 for a lot of schools now. Like
Yeah.
it comes and goes so quickly that it's not the same as a fan, or like even just covering the team. I think for me, I just have such a stronger feel, and like the Notre Dame loss hit me so much harder than I think even a Tennessee playoff loss this year would hit me. And I don't know if that's just me, and I wonder if it's more Tennessee fans would felt the same way. But like that was agonizing in a crazy way. And I did not expect it to hit me and just affect me as badly as it did. But I was a mess.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty unique, right?
Mm,
Football is my livelihood. It's what I cover. It's what pays the bills. It's my passion. I love it. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's 12 games, and then you get a month off, and you get a bowl game, or
yep.
it's 12 games, and maybe you're playing an SEC championship game and playoffs or whatever the case may be. I mean, it really comes, the snap of the fingers. I mean, I remember. I mean, gosh, I remember being in Baton Rouge. I mean, what is that, 2 months ago? I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like that was yesterday. I remember, as you pointed out, being on the field for, when Tennessee took down Florida and just being, shooting video and being mobbed whenever Tennessee, not me being mobbed, but people mobbing, the field from the stands when Tennessee beat Alabama. It's over in the blink of an eye. And what's different about football and basketball and baseball, too, don't have a helmet on. You can
Yeah.
see these guys. You can see their emotions. There's more games. And for media covering basketball and baseball, there's more media availabilities. You see, you talk to these guys more. You get to know these guys more. You get to know the inside jokes. And that's why I think that media is so unique, because it's the gateway from the team to the fans, and being able to tell those stories and get them on video and do some features and stuff. That's why I love doing it. I mean, that's kind of why I got into it to begin with, and it's really, really, really cool. But that is very different, from basketball and baseball compared to football, because it is over with so quickly. And even when it's in the off season, you have spring practice, and that's cool and everything. But you got 9 months to where you're not even. I mean, you're
Right.
talking about football and everything, but you're not seeing anything out there. And so it is a little bit different. And each season, when it comes to an end, it's a little sad, because you kind of got to know these players and their personalities and what they brought to the table. And that's sports for you, especially that's collegiate sports. It's a little bit different in the pros. Of course, it's more of a business, but that is what's kind of separates it between pros and college.
Who would you say you enjoyed talking with the most on Tennessee's football team this year?
We talked to Hendon a lot. He was good. Enjoyed talking to Cooper Mays. He is. He will tell you. I mean, he might not tell you everything, but he'll tell you what he's feeling. He'll tell you exactly what's going on. He's very personable. Really like talking with Cooper Mays. Talk to him a lot. Jerome Carvin. There's some guys that they send us just all the time, because they know they're a starter. They're a good kid, a good student. They're not going to say anything that's silly. So, we talked to Jerome Carvin all the time, and he was really, really nice. We talked to Trayvon Flowers all the time. In years past, we spoke with, I remember talking with Jawan Jennings, pretty much every media availability, and he was fantastic. And, they trusted him not to say anything stupid, but he would still say a lot of stuff, which was really, really neat. But, this year, probably Cooper Mays, Hendon, spoke with, Brinson Fan a couple of times, which was really neat, and seeing his evolution throughout the season, which was awesome. But probably Cooper.
I wonder if it's a coincidence that you mostly named offensive linemen and offensive players. Like, I wonder if are they better trained? Like, why are offensive players maybe better with media availability than defensive players?
Well, I think part of it might be as well, like, Tennessee's offense is better than Tennessee's defense, right?
It's more positivity to talk about there.
That and, you're scoring touchdowns, you're interviewed more than, making 3 tackles in a game. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, we spoke with Byron Young, and Aaron Beasley's a new guy that we got to speak with a lot this year, and he got better and better as the year went on. Amari Thomas is another. I left him out. Speak to Amari Thomas all the time. Talk about a guy that has grown not only into a good football player, but into a really big leader on this football team. He kind of took over from Matthew Butler there on defense last year, and he was good as well. So we got to speak to a couple more.
I like it. Now that the CFP has come out for this week, and Tennessee moving is just they're behind Alabama. A lot has been made about whether or not Tennessee should be behind Alabama. I tend to land that Tennessee would be ahead of them if Hendon Hooker was not out for the year, and I don't know if that should play into what the committee's doing, but my gut tells me that is, like, it's just really hard for me to get upset, because I feel like that is just in the back of their mind with Ohio State and Alabama. And in regards to Tennessee, even in the head-to-head matchup, it's just Hendon Hooker's not available. Like, it's just not the same thing. It's just not. But I wonder for you, what bowl is Tennessee going to wind up in? We are recording this on November 30th, Eric. Like, if you had to guess right now, based on the new CFP, where does Tennessee wind up?
Yeah, I still think there's a really strong possibility Tennessee can be in Miami for the Orange Bowl. Now, all the hoopla, coming out with the night of the rankings, with Tennessee being at number 7, it was important for Tennessee to be ahead of Penn State because the Orange Bowl could select a team from the SEC or the Big Ten or Notre Dame. So if Penn State was ahead of Tennessee, then the Orange Bowl theoretically could select Penn State. But then all the hoopla coming out about Ohio State, campaigning behind the scenes about not wanting to go back to the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl has a special clause to where it doesn't have to pick the highest ranking team; it can pick a team in a cluster, which Penn State would fit into there. So potentially, the Rose Bowl could take Penn State, the Orange Bowl would take Ohio State, and Tennessee would be moved over to the Cotton Bowl. So there are a couple different situations and scenarios out there. I just feel like, for me, the Orange Bowl really likes Tennessee. I think it likes the fact that the fan base travels. Tennessee is still an exciting offense, even without Hendon Hooker. It would be a show. It would be a good game. I think that's the best matchup because you're going to get the winner of the ACC championship, which would likely be, we all say Clemson. I want it to be Clemson. I want it to be Clemson in the Orange Bowl because Orange against Orange, Dabo Swinney's comments from a couple weeks ago, I want to see that, but it very well could be North Carolina. If you go to the Cotton Bowl, Tennessee's going to square off against a group of 5 champions such as Tulane or UCF, which, again, deserving to be there, but kind of loses a little bit of lackluster. So if I'm picking right now, I'll say Tennessee still goes to the Orange Bowl, but it's going to get dicey. It's going to get all the conversations throughout the rest of the week are going to be interesting because Ohio State kind of somehow, Ohio State and the Rose Bowl kind of control this narrative here on where Tennessee can go.
I just don't get worked up about bowl season anymore. It's just sad, but that's just where it is with the playoff. It's just like I don't know who's going to play. Like Cedric Tillman's probably not playing. I can think of a couple other people that are not playing. I don't know. It's just hard for me to is there a chance if Darnell Wright, if he's looking at his draft stock and he feels pretty good. Like I've seen some first round mocks for Darnell Wright, and if that's the case, is Darnell playing? It seems like he's the kind of guy that would play, and it's not just based on reading and listening to you guys. It seems like Darnell would be a go, but like Cedric Tillman's probably gone, and I don't know. I don't get really worked up about it, but I will say I wonder if Tennessee fans even just want North Carolina. Do they want to go through what happened the last time Tennessee and North Carolina played in a bowl game? There is some redemption there, and it's a great uniform matchup with North Carolina and Tennessee. Tennessee Clemson might be a little bit too much orange on the nose, but like you said, UNC can win that game. Like Drake May, I mean, we've seen Clemson's passing offense for 2 years now really, really struggle, and I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Drake May and this UNC offense from scoring enough where Clemson's going to have to put up points. But then again, Georgia Tech beat them and held North Carolina in check. So I don't know. I don't know which way that game goes, but I think I might be more intrigued by North Carolina and seeing Drake May against this Tennessee defense.
It's college football. You never know, what outcome you're going to get. I mean, everybody, our site, the South Carolina on 3 side, all picked Tennessee to win in a blowout. Look what happened, right? I mean, unfortunately that's college football sometimes. So, we'll see. And I agree with you. Bowl season's kind of lost a lot of the luster. It's definitely not what it used to be because of the playoffs, and that's one of the big advocates on, why you don't want to extend the playoffs and all that. And again, I used to be the guy that, from a fan's perspective, just kind of, oh, you're not going to play in the bowl game to sit out? I mean, you're a quitter. You're going to do that to your teammates? I mean, what are you doing? And now I've just kind of realized the more I've gone on, I mean, this is a business decision, and there's a lot of money at hand. I mean, look at Alontae Taylor last year. No one's 100% right now, but Alontae Taylor was nursing I think it was an ankle injury or a hamstring. It was something, and he opted out of the bowl game, and he went on and performed well at his pro day and the NFL combine. He was a second-round pick. I mean, that worked out for him, and he's balling out in the NFL right now. So it'll be interesting. I'm with you, man. There will be some guys that won't play in this game. I feel like I don't exactly know which ones that would be right now, but I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I'm sure if a couple of these guys decide to go pro, I think some of those guys will be like Trey Smith and decide to stay and play in the bowl game. So we'll have to see, but I'm with you there. The bowl season, we got people losing their minds about Tennessee being ranked 7th instead of 6th in front of Alabama, but you're still going to a New Year's Six bowl game. I mean, that in itself is saying, like, wow, what a season this has been and what a turnaround this has been for Josh Heupel.
Speaking of Josh Heupel and this coaching staff, Eric, do you think the staff stays completely intact this offseason? I know you were talking on Locked On Vols this week in Volquest with Alex Golesh and being an Ohio native, and he's going to come up for, I think he was in Feldman's list for the Cincy job. But I think there are other names. Like Rodney Gardner kind of scares me with the new Auburn hire, Cadillac being the associate head coach under Hugh Freeze. Like, obviously, there's always that pull for Rodney Gardner to go back home to the Plains, like a new staff. Like, it wasn't going to happen with Brian Harsin with his Boise staff, but like, I don't know. I don't know if they go full family and bring back as many notable names as possible, but I don't know. Do you think this staff is ultimately the exact same going into next year? Is that your feel?
The exact same, I don't know. I mean, things always happen. It was going to be the exact same last year before the NFL came calling for Cody Burns, and he left, and so there's always that potential. What if somebody wants to come and get Brian John Murray to be a defensive coordinator? That's a step up, and that's more pay. So, I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying, what if, right? As far as Rodney Garner, anything can happen, but he loves it here in Knoxville. His two daughters, twin daughters, I believe, are students at the University of Tennessee, and his family loves being in Knoxville. He loves working for Coach Heupel. So I wouldn't expect Rodney Garner. Again, anything can happen, but I wouldn't expect Rodney Garner to go back to Auburn at this time.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like I said, anything can happen. That's how you always cover your tracks. Anything can happen. But I wouldn't expect that. Now, Alex Golesh is the one, in my opinion, to watch out for. He's going to be a head coach before it's all said and done. Will he be a head coach this offseason? How far down the list is he for Cincinnati? What about some other schools in the MAC? He used to coach in the MAC. And so I think for him, it's just like kind of weighing. He's heavily compensated. I mean, he makes $1.5 million. He's a finalist for the Broyles Award, which is such a prestigious honor. He's in a good position here. So I think for him to leave, whether it be this offseason or next offseason, you just have to, sometimes you don't get two chances to be a head coach. It's got to be the right fit. So, we'll see. But he's one to look out for. And I know fans are upset with the defensive performance at points in times this year, and especially at South Carolina. Right now I don't see any changes like that happening. But again, anything can happen.
I'm just not there. I'm still giving this defense a pass. Like, when you look at this class, Heupel has emphasized getting more and more talent on the defensive side of the ball. I'm just not there. When you have the number one scoring offense in college football, it's just going to be hard. And you talked about it, where it's like you're not going to get the big name DCs. Like the Kevin Steeles of the world don't want any part of this offense. Nope. Like it's going to be complicated. That's why, I mean, you want to win in the position coach battles, right? Like the Rodney Gardners of the world, where you just get some guys to surround just to fill up this great staff and great coaching and do the best you can. But I mean, there's so much talent coming in on the defensive line and in the secondary. Like we'll see if they all stick because there's only so much you can play, but that's still good. That's the Georgia-Alabama situation to be in. It's like the best ones will stick, and then the ones who fall out. But that's where you want to be. You want to keep turning. And I wonder for Golesh, with Nico coming in, I wonder if there's part of him that's like, I kind of think if we turn Nico into what Nico can be, if he lives up to his expectations, I might get a really, really good job if our offense is humming with a Heisman quarterback, with the 5-star, with probably the most physically gifted quarterback in this class. I mean, I think there's got to be some appeal on that front. And also, it should make Tennessee fans feel like, hey, even if we lose Golesh, this is a very attractive job. And Heupel sticking it to his alma mater by pulling Jeff Lebby back and being like, are you sure you want to stick around with what's going on in Oklahoma? Just come back with me. And Coach Nico and Joe Milton and maybe even Taven Jackson over the next couple of years. It'll be a little bit more fun. But I wonder if there's some pull there where it's like, I mean, we might have a generational quarterback and I get to call plays for him. Like that might be too much to pass up for right now. And like you said, heavily compensated, likes living in Knoxville. It's a good job. I wonder if there's a Nico pull there.
There might be. The thing with Nico would be, I mean, you'll have to see how he comes in and competes and, everything with Joe. But, I feel like if everybody had their choosing, it's, taking into account the Nico family as well, the Iamaleava family, it would be Joe Milton, your starting quarterback the entire next season. Nico's sitting there, sponge, soaking everything up, learning, getting bigger, developing his body, learning the offense, all that type of stuff. I mean, I understand nowadays, especially in the NFL, it's like you draft him, you play him, or the Trevor Lawrence of the world sit 4 games and they're thrusted into action. And there's a need, especially if there's a highly regarded recruit and all that. And that's going to be here in Knoxville with Nico. But so many times you just want to sit there and learn and not get rushed or thrown into anything. And so, we'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe for Alex Golesh, there's that lure there, but I mean that might take a couple of years. Are you willing to still stay here for a couple of years and bypass on those opportunities? Maybe you are. I don't know. We'll see. But it's a good situation to be in, if you ask me. If you're Alex Golesh, if you're some of these other coaches that have this influx of talent coming in, and kind of where you are right now. As far as the defense is concerned, I've written a couple things at Volquest.com earlier this week, and we'll have other stuff coming out every single day this week, kind of on the looking back at the season. I mean, I get the frustrations, the defensive performances. It's South Carolina, no excuse. Almost allowing Florida to come back, no excuse. Alabama's Alabama. You just won that football game, right? But man, I mean, you look at the stat sheet. Tennessee improved by a touchdown in terms of points per game. Went from 29.7 from a year ago to like 23.3. So that's improved. The yards per game slightly improved by about 33 yards. So again, there's much more steps to be taken. I think in-game adjustments, there weren't many this year, and that was frustrating. I think the lack of trying out new personnel at times was a little frustrating. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but there are steps in the right direction. Tennessee did some things. Vanderbilt's not great. Pitched a shutout in SEC play. Will Levis will be in the NFL draft, and he will be, among the top 5-6 quarterbacks taken. Held him to 98 yards passing, held Kentucky to 6 points. On the road at LSU, held, Jaden Daniels, sure he had 300 yards passing, but they were playing from behind the entire game. Held LSU, which was in the college football playoff conversation until last week, to 13 points. Tennessee's defense took a step this year. It just needs to continue taking a couple of steps every single year to get back to where you're truly playing some complementary football to what Josh Heupel does.
Over under. Nico Iamaleava starts 3 games next year.
I will go. Ooh, that might be good. That might be the push there. I'll go under. I think everybody wants it to be under. I'll go under, but it might be 2. It might be a push right at 3.
I think people need to prepare for this. Like, there's going to be we haven't seen this kind of pressure in the NIL era with somebody like Nico. Like Joe, everyone wants it to be Joe. It's a great story. You have to, just for the culture, I think, start, because like he stayed, and you want to emphasize like this is Joe's job. He did something that most touted quarterbacks would not do. But the Virginia game, I mean, it just we're gonna see. Like, if it's anything like what we saw last year, we saw the change happen in game 3 or 4, and I mean, it would probably mean just, look, we're not going to compete for a CFP next year. If you make that switch, it's just too much to put on Nico as a true freshman. But like, I don't know. And then you have the Taven thing. Like, is Taven Jackson a Tennessee Vol next year? Do you think he stays?
I think this spring will be big for Taven. Number one, he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
So like, who would really want to take a chance on him right now? He doesn't have much tape. He's hurt. The spring, you can come in. You'll be healthy. Number one, you get to continue to develop under, in my opinion, the best quarterbacks coach in the country, and Josh Heupel and Joey Halsey. See where you stand. I think the spring will be huge for him in that regard. And then after spring, if okay, I am for sure clearly number 3, no doubt about it. I'm going to go and leave and be healthy and get a new opportunity, then go ahead. But I expect him to be here in spring, and I think this will be a big spring for him. I just don't think that there's a lot. And I could be wrong. He may be going to the transfer portal, December the 5th when it opens up for undergraduates. But I think that he would want to kind of see where he stands in spring.
Final 2 questions for you, Eric. The 3 wideouts who play the most snaps together next year will be who?
Ooh, okay. So you're saying is Jalen Hyatt coming back? Man, I don't know. I feel like for Jalen Hyatt, it might be too good of an opportunity to pass up. Also, I feel like his stock will never be higher than what it is right now. So, we'll see. I think he's got to, talk to some people and do his research, kind of see where he stands, talk to some NFL scouts and all that. So for the sake of this discussion, I will say that he's not here.
Okay.
So for the sake of this, that does not mean he's going, but for the sake of this discussion, I will say Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy, and Squirrel White. Ramel Keaton, I mean, shoot, like myself included, I didn't expect anything out of him. Whenever Cedric Tillman went down, I was like, all right, well, you got Ramel Keaton, but you also got Walker Merrill, you got Jimmy Holiday. You can move Jalen Hyatt to the outside, bring in Squirrel. They'll do some type of committee type work to try to overcompensate for the loss of Cedric Tillman. Nope, Ramel Keaton got in there and made the catch of the year in the Florida game, and Had 2 touchdowns later on in the season. It's like this offense, the number 1 scoring offense, number 1 total offense in the country, didn't skip a beat with Ramel Keaton out there, and I think that is a compliment to him.
It's funny you say that because the thing that I felt guilty about saying, and I don't know if y'all asked Type about this or privately, just Tillman probably should have been shut down after he had his injury. Like the offense with Hooker and they never got right after that injury. They were never the same, and I just wonder, you had something clicking like with Ramel, Brew, and Jalen that like said you're gonna go in the draft, like you're gonna be fine. Get right. Don't worry about the tight rip surgery. Stop trying to like make it work, because like he just wasn't himself in the Georgia game. He wasn't himself in the South Carolina game. There was something off. Like the connection that he had, if you watch the Pitt game with Hooker and then everything after that, it wasn't right. And they had something with that 3-man group, and it was probably the reps that they had together. But I wonder if they could do it all over. They would do that. But I mean, I guess you can't with someone like Ced's talent. But that was something I always wondered.
And again, I think that it calls Hendon with the injury to Cedric Tillman. I think it calls Hendon to scan the field more and see, there's Brew McCoy. Let me throw the football to him. I mean, that Pittsburgh game, and I know some of it was coaching a little bit, but couldn't run the football. And they said, all right, if we're going to win this game on the road, we're going to go to our guy, and that's Cedric Tillman. We're going to throw him the ball 18 times, see what happens. He had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever, or a touchdown, the game winner, whatever it was. But yeah, with a talent like Cedric Tillman, I mean, you can't take that chance. And also, he had the tightrope surgery, I want to say a couple of days after the injury, and so you didn't know what you were going to have in Ramel Keaton at that point. I'm with you, though. I think the offense certainly didn't skip a beat. It still looked really, really good. Cedric Tillman was not the same Cedric Tillman when he came back, but still having him out there, the potential of what he can do, the eyes that he caused, from the defense to come over and maybe double him and allow Hyatt to go free in the back end. He still had a lot of worth out there for sure. And he's a competitor. He wanted to come back. He wanted to play.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this just wasn't a great year for him, but shouldn't affect, in my opinion, his stock all that much. I think he'll be a pretty decent NFL wide receiver. And 4 years ago, you'd never say that about Cedric Tillman.
That's true. We'll end on this, Eric. And I will say too, you mentioned those 3. I think Tennessee's going to get a big receiver in the portal. They flirted with Isaiah Nair last year. There's more tape now. Receivers are going to see the Jalen Hyatt numbers. They're going to see where Seg gets drafted. They're going to see. I think they're getting a big one. I don't know if it's a Jameson Williams type big get, but my gut tells me someone's going to enter the portal that shocks a lot of folks, and I don't know if it's Luther Burden, and he's like, I'm going to Tennessee. Like, my gut tells me they're getting one of the big name receivers across. Maybe it's Thornton. Maybe it's Dante Thornton from Oregon. Like, I don't know who it is, but my gut tells me they're going to get one of the big ones. I don't know if you have any reporting on that, but that is my gut. I think Tennessee gets one of the big ones, and they pop out of the portal and like, oh, well, I get it. I understand why you did it, but that's my gut.
Yeah, right now, nothing. We'll see. Obviously, you went and got Javonte Payton year 1, and he had like 18 receptions, 7 touchdowns on the year. I mean, it was incredible. But Tennessee has benefited from the portal. Javonte
Brew
Payton
McCoy this past year.
Yeah, Brew McCoy last year. Not even taking into account Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton was from the portal, all that and more. So I think Josh Heupel and his staff are always actively looking to improve the roster. And I agree with you. I mean, if there's a big talent out there at wide receiver and they express interest in wanting to come to Tennessee, sure, I would imagine they'd hear him out right now. I just know in terms of what they're shopping for, number 1 is a tight end, maybe 2. They have got to have a tight end. That tight end is so important to the offense and the tempo, because when you sub, it allows the defense to sub. Having a guy like Prince and Jacob Warren out there that can line up anywhere is so important. Looking for a tight end, looking for a DB, looking for a pass rusher, looking for an offensive tackle, running back. I mean, you go down the list before you get to wide receiver. But to your point, if there's a stud out there, it's not like they're going to say, no, we're good. They'll entertain it.
We'll end on this, Eric. The 2023 recruit that you're most excited for, not named Nico Iamaleava, is who?
I was asked this in the Monday Night Chat the other night. Cam Seldon, there's a lot of intrigue there. Just such a talent, how they want to use him, where he's going to set up shop in terms of a home position. Cedric Tillman's one. For me, Shandavion Bradley on the defensive side of the football, really intriguing as well. David Hobbs, 5-star defensive lineman. met him a couple of times, talked with him. He is just such a stand-up kid and looks really good. He's playing basketball right now. He's slimmed down, but he's got the stature to put on some weight, some good weight. So I would go Cam Selton, but there's a lot in this class. Sylvester Smith, Christian Conyer, Jeremiah Thielander. I like this class. I think it's going to be a pretty decent class. I know it's ranked I think 11th or 12th right now, but I think this is a pretty good class for Josh Heupel.
The main thing is just be in the blue chip ratio. That's all I ask. I don't need you to be number 2 every year. I just want you to be in the blue chip ratio where we can actually win a title. That's it. And right now, it looks like that's where they're going, is they're going to be in the blue chip ratio every year. Eric Cain, what can the good folks check out from you over at Volquest and Locked On Vols this week?
Yep, Locked On Vols every single day. It's your go-to for Tennessee news, coverage, all that good stuff. 30 minutes every single day, Locked On Vols. And over at Volquest.com, continuing to kind of look back and research on this season. Got some lists coming out, moments, best games, breakout freshmen, all that good stuff. It's over at Volquest.com, and you can find all that on Twitter at _Cainer.
There you go. Eric, thank you so much for making the time. We'll have to check back in again soon.
Yep, sounds good, man. Anytime.